Mr. Speaker, today marks the first anniversary since assuming responsibility for the Ministry of Public Works, and I wish to provide a snapshot, and I highlight a snapshot, Mr. Speaker, of the work of the Ministry during this period.
Which one? The police, fire department? Okay.
The Ministry of Public Works is responsible for maintaining Bermuda's critical assets and infrastructure. In fact, Public Works is the lead agent in delivering the infrastructure requirements upon which so many of the services provided to this island depend upon. Some of the assets and infrastructure that the Ministry is responsible for building and maintaining include 617 roads amounting to 225 kilometers of road surface, 751 buildings maintained by public lands and buildings with an insured value of $1.5 billion, 85 public docks and purpose-built berths servicing cruise ships, cargo ships, and hundreds of private vessels and yachts each year, 5 reservoirs with a capacity of 2.5 million gallons of Bermuda's precious and very limited freshwater resource, 75 amenity parks, beaches, and school grounds protected under the Bermuda National Parks Act 1986, and 2 golf courses. Mr. Speaker, the departments comprising this ministry include the Ministry Headquarters, Finance and Administration, Works and Engineering, Public Lands and Buildings, Land Valuation, Parks, Land Title Registration, Bermuda Land Development Company, West End Development Corporation, Bermuda Housing Corporation, and golf courses. It cannot be overstated how critical this vast and diverse ministry is to Bermuda and the smooth running of the country. A cursory glance of responsibilities listed above reinforces that fact. Therefore, the maintenance and enhancement of our infrastructure and facilities must remain a priority because infrastructure development is a vital component in encouraging our country's economic growth. For example, infrastructure development will provide the adequate capacity for future growth Bermuda so desperately needs, enhance visitor experience when they come to Bermuda, and more importantly, it will provide a key source of job creation and economic empowerment going forward. Mr. Speaker, the ministry has been without a permanent secretary since March 20th this year, and you will well know that ministers are prohibited from becoming involved in any aspect of this exercise, so my only recourse is to plead publicly with those whose responsibility it is to please act soon. This is in no way a criticism of the 2 senior officers in the ministry, the chief surveyor and the chief engineer, who have acted during this period while also juggling their principal responsibilities. The fact remains, this vacancy adds to a level of uncertainty amongst all members of staff and stifles long-term planning and forward movement. Mr. Speaker, the overarching objective of the Ministry Headquarters, Finance and Administration is to provide centralized support to the departments listed above to ensure delivery of their varied services and operating programs. The head office administration, under the direction of the Permanent Secretary, provides oversight and management support to the entire Ministry of Public Works. It also ensures that the Minister's policy objectives are met and specifically is responsible for the implementation of the Ministry's throne speech initiatives, yearly business plan, management of safety and health matters, compliance, and numerous special administrative projects. Mr. Speaker, at this time last year, many critical posts were unfilled, thus compromising essential activity during the year. Here are some of the key highlights. A new CFO was hired in Mr. Gideon Kagotho. The ministry was without one for more than 6 months. 5 new laborers for trash collection, key personnel in the water section, principal structural engineer. The post was vacant for more than 2 years. 3 laborers in the highway section. Mr. Speaker, staff were confirmed in acting positions that were waiting an inordinate amount of time to be appointed. Competent Bermudian people who waited for more than a year to get the job that they should have been in for a long time. They being Remy Sabir as the principal electrical engineer, Clarkston Trott as the solid waste manager, and Tina Searle as the highway civil engineer. Mr. Speaker, we also hired staff in key positions, young Bermudian engineers in the ministry that will be able to learn and take an active role in the ministry in the future. Those young engineers are under a training program from the government that will enable them to develop their skills, full potential, and ultimately their professional designations. They are Jamar Deal, electrical engineer, Zico Johnson, a mechanical engineer, Ricardo Graham Ward, structural engineer, Tabia Butterfield, civil engineer, and Alanette Hayward, civil engineer. Mr. Speaker, several training courses were held for all employees during this year. Technical courses, new technologies, with the emphasis placed on health and safety. In the ministry, we need to catch up on some important health and safety issues. We trained last year to iOS 8 standard more than 100 employees. We listened to staff and purchased additional safety gear that we know workers will wear. Mr. Speaker, in the electrical section, all building projects this year were done in-house for the first time in a long time. No electrical work has been subcontracted. 15 new crossing beacons are to be installed by the end of August, and confirmation that all lights on the original 39 crossings are working. Installation of Harmony Club crossing lights, expansion of the LED street light projects, research of the electrical requirements for the Artemis building, purchase of a new 3D survey robot. This was bought principally for the King's Wharf project. However, it is the perfect tool for buildings. A 3D model AutoCAD file with a precision of 2 millimeters can be recreated from scratch. New drawings for a building that has no existing drawings can also be recreated with this tool. Mr. Speaker, at the beginning of this year, the electrical engineering department was staffed by only 2 people for a number of years, the principal engineer, Remy Sabir, and 1 assistant, Van Dyke Bean. The following engineers have been added to the department beginning in April of this year. Lance Brown, a summer student, graduate of the Bermuda College with a certificate in electronics and electrical wiring. Currently, he is attending Plymouth University, studying for a Bachelor of Science Electronic Engineering degree, started in 2016 with an expected end date of 2020. He began the summer employment program in June last year and returned last month for this summer. 2, Cody Simons, a summer student, mechanical engineering student, who is with us for the first time this year. He is entering his 2nd year at the University of New Brunswick, St. John. Jamar Deal, full-time electrical engineer, a bachelor's with honors in electrical power engineering from Glasgow Caledonian University in 2015. Jamar also obtained his Master of Science Maintenance Management degree at Glasgow Caledonian University, Scotland, UK in 2017. 4, Zico Johnston, full-time mechanical engineer, Bachelor of Science, Mechanical Engineering, Florida International University, Miami, Florida in 2017. He was a summer intern at Belco from 2014 through 2016. Danielle Bortelli, probably going to get me to correct the pronunciation of his name. Full-time electrical engineer. Daniele started the Public Works trainee program in 2008. He successfully completed the program, and Public Works sent him to complete a secondment at Associated Engineering in Alberta, Canada. After his secondment, Daniele returned to Public Works in 2013 for 2 years. In 2015, he left the ministry to work for Building Design Partnership Limited in Manchester, one of the leading design engineering firms in the UK, who recently won the mechanical and electrical engineering contract to modernize the Palace of Westminster, or the Houses of Parliament. There, Daniele was employed as an electrical design engineer, working predominantly on new hospital projects and university campus developments. He returned to the ministry in March of this year. He holds a Master of Science in Sustainable Electrical Building Services, Engineering from Manchester University, and a Bachelor of Engineering, Electrical and Electronic Engineering from the University of Leicester. Mr. Speaker, I am sure you will agree that these 5 outstanding young Bermudians are a welcome addition to the ministry and serve as a glowing example of the excellence of our young people when they are given some encouragement and support. Mr. Speaker, New Bridges, Longbird and Swing Bridge Phase 2 has been completed. The project is on schedule. Plans are being finalized for public presentation of the new designs and the launch of a campaign for members of the public to suggest new names for the new bridges. King's Wharf deck replacement and refurbishment. Permission has just been received to sole source the slab precast for this contract. Contractor's tender will be issued next week. The project is on schedule and is designed to rectify some minor deficiencies as well as upgrade the dock to accommodate the next class of cruise ships. The 20,000 square foot Artemis building was purchased to create 2 10,000 square foot buildings to be located at the quarry, one for stores and the other for the heavy mechanical shop. Some areas will be used to store some machinery and extend their lifespan. This project is on schedule. Blackwatch Pass and Winton Hill projects are underway to ensure safety of the rock face. Scaling new methods have been used to reduce costs and increase efficiency. Repair many demolished walls and rock cuts across the island. A drone was purchased to conduct inspections of all bridges and wharfs. This should result in savings of at least 600 hours of engineers' time. It was most recently used to inspect the foreshore at Tobacco Bay and revealed the need for emergency repair works. Repaired Devonshire Dock Fisherman's Platform, Customs Wharf, and St. George's, and conducted Watford Bridge pile inspection. Mr. Speaker, highways have produced high-quality paving work of more than 10 kilometers of highway, implemented new fees for roadside tree cutting of $1,000 an hour. This has helped tremendously. We will enforce that on all trash truck collection routes, especially on private roads. Clearing of the finger for the solar panel project at the L.F. Wade International Airport, foreshore protection at Shelley Bay and Tobacco Bay. We did around $500,000 of private paving work, including the airport. We are currently exploring the sourcing of an asphalt recycling machine that will significantly reduce the cost of private road paving. Waste management. Mr. Speaker, implemented 1 day per week garbage collection. We can see a change in the health of our workers and attitude. Now there are no staff coming from other sections to do their work in overtime. We are saving close to $1 million annually, and with the new trucks we can see some of the pride returning. New trucks was really neglected by the former administration. It is like giving a plastic hammer to a carpenter, Mr. Speaker. All evidence was brought forward, and we wasted a lot of energy trying to convince intelligent people that you need trucks to pick up trash. Despite the evidence, nothing was done or even progress. With the new trucks, it is a breath of fresh air and hope for the management and the workers. Around 50 containers of asbestos have been shipped to the USA after negotiating an agreement to dispose of them. Regular shipments will continue as budget allows. The recycling plant has operated all year without incident, but at nowhere near capacity. Recycled glass is being used with asphalt paving and exploration of the manufacture of roof slates. Pilot projects to provide trash bins to residents will be implemented. Disposed of more than 200 derelict cars from the quarry site. Times Bay Waste to Energy Facility. Mr. Speaker, we burn trash every day. We are producing electricity every day. We are producing water every day, and we are doing regular maintenance every day. The opening hours for the public drop-off have been extended. The new capital and maintenance project is underway as we recently hired a project manager to begin the assessment of the future needs of the facility. Mr. Speaker, a new storage water tank was installed at the water trucker outlet at Tynes Bay, providing a more reliable service. Installation of remote meters allowing us the ability to monitor leaks and fix them. Initiated the St. George's Water and Wastewater pilot program as a template for water and wastewater management for the entire island. Working with Valco to coordinate joint underground pipe laying from Tynes Bay to Grotto Bay, Blue Hole, within the next 18 months. Our flat refurbishment at Tynes Bay has been completed. Refurbishment of main water pipelines on Middle Road, Devonshire. New water tank in St. George's for safety and more reliability. We bought an underwater drone for water tank inspection. At the quarry, Mr. Speaker, the Artemis Foundation construction is well underway. Despite the new regulations from OPMP, staff are doing extra work to procure vehicles and spare parts. The mechanics, despite challenges with facilities, continue to work miracles keeping vehicles in service on a weekly basis. Mr. Speaker, there is a misconception that a lack of funds hampers the work done by the Department of Public Lands and Buildings and is the reason for the perceived poor condition of some government properties and poor standard of service by the department. However, the reality is that year after year, Public Lands and Building has been given sufficient operational and capital funds, and that the root issue is a lack of human resources and strategic planning. It should also be noted that changes in real estate takes time. It takes time to scope, budget, schedule, and implement property changes. With that said, the department has implemented many plans to address its shortcomings, all of which will be mentioned in this statement. Mr. Speaker, the first of these issues being inadequate staffing. The former government introduced an early retirement package and freeze on hiring. This, combined with the slow recruitment process, it has consequences for the department and service levels. The department has 59 vacant posts, of which only 17 are budgeted for. The hurdles and delays in hiring have a significant effect on the service levels provided, the condition of government buildings, as well as morale within the department and government-wide. The department has had approval to fill vacant funded posts, and recruitment is underway for hiring both BRU and BPSU posts. This process is still long-winded, but the good news is that they are underway with the recruitment and are about to interview for the assistant building manager's post. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, the estate section structure and job descriptions were reviewed and changed to reflect the move towards managing the property assets as the priority rather than the occupiers. In addition, 3 estate officer posts were changed to building surveyor posts with job descriptions focused on them doing condition surveys and planned preventative maintenance work. A similar exercise is being conducted at the building section to bring the job descriptions for the superintendents more in line with modern facilities management. One of the building surveyor posts has been filled by a Bermudian, Mr. Dalton Burgess, Jr. A minor setback with filling the other post, as the recommended candidate from overseas withdrew his application when he received the offer of the post by the PSC. Secondly, the Office of Project Management and Procurement and the Architect section previously managed major construction projects, including new builds and major refurbishments. Both have decided they will no longer do this work, and it has therefore fallen to Public Lands and Buildings to take these projects on without any additional resources and, critically, without project managers. There has been progress on planning and managing projects by both the department's use of new software, Concerto, to record and manage projects, and through the Ministry of Public Works capital project meetings to collate, record, and monitor projects at the ministry level. Mr. Speaker, the Architect section has also recently once again begun taking over the project management of large capital projects, and Public Lands and Buildings has developed a project management team in-house to manage and deliver the minor capital work projects. These actions will help with monitoring, reporting, and delivering on projects. As a sidebar, Mr. Speaker, for some inexplicable reason, we have inherited a situation where the chief architect falls under OPMP, while the architects fall under the Ministry of Public Works. You will readily see that that is a recipe for disaster, and we are taking the necessary steps within the bureaucracy to fix it. The department is responsible for the management of the government estate, including the maintenance and repair of buildings. Most of the properties were built over 50 years ago and do not meet today's modern building code or need for modern technology and expectation of air conditioning by occupiers. They were also built for another purpose and have not been properly repurposed. An example of this is the Prospect Depot, which was an old military hospital, and the facility is not suitable for a modern facilities management operation. Most government buildings do not meet current building control and health and safety requirements. As such, when a minor project is required on the property, it can lead to the whole property needing to be upgraded to meet current code. Mr. Speaker, the department has had success with the adoption of the new government space standards to provide a modern, efficient work environment that makes better use of space. This will, in the middle to long term, save on maintenance costs, capital costs, and rent. It should also improve staff morale, health and safety, performance, and attendance. The Estates Department is completing the new model office, and following any changes based on lessons learned will be the new standard open floor plan layout and finish for government offices. There's been a marked increase in health and safety complaints, with capital projects being driven by health and safety concerns rather than proper estate planning. With Cabinet, House of Assembly, Government House, Delwood, Parks, Headquarters, and Marine and Ports are examples of health and safety driven projects. Some of the indoor air quality issues are a result of building failure, commonly leaks, but some are a result of the occupiers' bad housekeeping habits. To some extent, Mr. Speaker, I believe we have gone overboard with perceived health and safety concerns, and regularly a common sense approach is not employed. Mr. Speaker, a new process has been agreed with Cabinet Office whereby their health and safety coordinator is investigating health and safety concerns in a more structured process that starts with issues being raised and recorded with the health and safety committees. These issues are forwarded on to the coordinator, who investigates and contacts the building section if the issues are building related. A more pragmatic approach has been employed, which has reduced the overreaction and interruptions to government services as well as costs. This has been an ongoing challenge. Communication by the department and managing clients' expectations is very poor, Mr. Speaker. This has been addressed with staff and forms part and parcel of project plans, so it should improve. It will be an ongoing process, but staff realize the importance of proper communication with clients. Until recently, the lack of an IT system hampered management of the estate and the ability to access reliable and up-to-date information on which to make informed management decisions. Mr. Speaker, the major modules of a new IT system have been rolled out and are being used by staff with the project management, estates management, and help desk function fully functional. The base data for properties is in the software, including both leases in and leases out. The next module to go live will be the planned preventative maintenance module. A lack of a property asset management plan meant that there was little or no planning, but mainly reactive management, which is inefficient, expensive, and increases the risk of disruption to public services. The PMP plan has been reviewed and approved by Cabinet and will continue to be developed and implemented. Mr. Speaker, specific courses have been built into forward job plans, including the Corporate Real Estate and Facilities Management online course with some 200 hours for state officers. Staff were encouraged to take the Project Management Professional course to get their professional certification in project management. It is now included in job descriptions as an advantage to have. The department has also had depot and estate staff trained on mold identification and remediation. In continuation, a number of estates officers have completed and passed the Corporate Real Estate and Facilities Management course and are looking to take the Project Management PMP course and exam. All estates and buildings senior staff recently took the Water Quality course at the Bermuda College to ensure they have the knowledge to manage and maintain water tanks, roofs, and potable water supplies within buildings. The buildings team also completed the scaffolding erection and supervisory courses, and I was pleased to present certificates to the graduates. Mr. Speaker, it was determined by the department that school condition surveys needed to be conducted to help identify works that need doing together, and decisions on the viability and future of the building. Once they are completed, the department can then plan, budget, and schedule the works. The school condition surveys were contracted out, but there were a number of issues with the bids and concerns raised by the bidders about how to price for unknowns. A test survey is to be completed on one school to iron out those issues, and based on the results, changes made to the tender and or reporting requirements. In the interim, a project is underway to get as-built drawings for all schools, as well as numbering of rooms for ease of reference on both help desk and reports. Surveys will then be carried out on other key government buildings. Mr. Speaker, we learned valuable lessons from the experience of school maintenance last summer and implemented maintenance programs throughout the school year and properly planned for this summer. The school summer works kicked off immediately after schools closed and are in full swing. All schools have been inspected by both Ministry of Public Works and Ministry of Education Facilities Management staff, with a list of tasks agreed and assigned to various work crews. In addition to these, any issues identified by the Health and Safety Coordinator are being included with those tasks. These works have begun and will be completed over the summer holidays. A number of contracts are being issued to private contractors to complete over the summer, including the painting of Delwood, T.N. Tatum, Prospect Preschool, and Gilbert Institute. Harrington Science School will be painted as well, but by an in-house team. In respect of the school summer works, it is estimated that an additional $3 million will be spent on capital works on schools over the summer, including contracts to the private sector for painting, floor refinishing, and roof replacement. Mr. Speaker, it is intended that all personnel within the department will be involved in school works. This means that there will be 7 work units with a total of 102 tradesmen working in schools. To date, there are also 7 summer students assisting with this major project. They are tackling 1,081 tasks and 26 capital projects. In addition, there are numerous small and large private contractors engaged on this project. Department of Land Valuation. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Land Valuation is mandated under the Land Valuation and Tax Act 1967 to maintain an up-to-date and accurate valuation list of all properties in Bermuda for land tax purposes, including the 5-yearly revaluation of those properties. Additionally, the department provides accurate and timely valuation advice to other government departments upon request. Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to report that the Director of Land Valuation has reported that her department has wholeheartedly embraced the new ministry motto and philosophy of business as usual, just won't do, and are operating on that basis. Historically, 75% of the department's valuation list casework was generated by completion certificates issued by the Planning Department upon the completion of building works. Last summer, the Planning Department notified Land Valuation that a significant number of outstanding historic building permits were to be forwarded. The bulk of these permits relate to building works that have been completed years ago, but the final completion certificate has not been issued. Consequently, these property alterations are not reflected in the property's assessed annual rental value and represents lost land tax revenue to government. In response to this increased volume of work, the department revisited the way they conducted their core business and are leveraging technology with the aim of increasing efficiencies in processes and additionally revenue generation for government. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the Department now places less reliance on the compliance certificates received for case generation and have moved toward generating their own proactive casework as they continue to leverage technology in maintaining the valuation list in respect of property alterations. A program of targeted property inspections is undoubtedly a more efficient use of the time and limited resources of the Department. An additional benefit to government is increased land tax revenue generation, as targeted property inspections for building works not signed off by the Planning Department typically result in an increase in the assessed ARV. Mr. Speaker, the Department has also begun scanning the approximately 35,000 historic survey drawings from 1967 to 2007 into its IT database as part of the drive towards a truly paperless office. This project, which is nearing completion, will not only create greater efficiencies but will assist with the historic building permits project and the program of targeted inspections whilst maximizing office space and promoting a healthier office environment. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Land Valuation currently has one summer student, Ms. Andisha Busby, a bursary student who has recently completed the second of her 3-year Bachelor of Science Real Estate degree program at the University of Reading in England. Ms. Busby will share her 7-week summer internship between Land Valuation and the Estates Department to maximize her learning experience. Mr. Speaker, the next major project on the horizon for the Department is the 2020 revaluation. As aforementioned, the Land Valuation and Tax Act 1967 mandates a revaluation of all properties on the island for land tax purposes every 5 years. This, as with all island revaluations, is an extensive project for the Department involving the mass appraisal of 36,000 valuation units and requires all available resources within the Department to complete it. The purpose of the revaluation is to maintain equity in the valuation list as property values change over time, and these changes are not uniform across the market. Mr. Speaker, the Department will therefore be entering its revaluation life cycle next year, and rent survey forms will be sent to all property owners in the latter half of 2019. Once the collected rental data has been vetted and analyzed, the 2020 draft valuation list will go on deposit on the 31st of December 2020 and will come into effect for land tax purposes on the 1st of January 2021. Department of Parks. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Parks' mandate, objectives, and scope of work is very broad and entails administration, maintenance, development, enforcement, cultural and historical management, and education. The Department is responsible for the management and maintenance of approximately 2,000 acres of parks, beaches, and government land throughout the island. This includes 75 parks, 96 properties, 26 public school grounds, 30 kilometers of roadside grass verges stretching across the island, and 6 sports fields under the Ministry of Social Development and Sport. Mr. Speaker, private-public partnerships are not uncommon and are a key element in the development of projects and assets within the Department of Parks. To this end, the Department will continue to collaborate with various industry partners to promote and ensure the success of these objectives. The Department of Parks has recently partnered with entities such as the BTA, Friends of the Railway, the Skills Development Group, the Bermuda Prisons, Court Services, the BRU and BPSU, Belco, and Friends of Hospice to develop our brand. Partnerships like these allow the team to tackle large projects that would otherwise be extremely challenging to complete in a timely manner. The members of the Park Service Division perform educational service to the public with their interpretive tours at Fort Scour, Admiralty House, Ferry Point Park, and St. David's, Blue Hill Park, and Spittle Pond. These tours are popular primarily with schools, summer day camps, and community centers. Mr. Speaker, after a major review, the management section of the Department is in a state of restoration. Over the past year, 3/4 of the management staff were in acting capacities. A strategy has been developed to remedy this and is being implemented. Critical vacant posts include those of director, senior superintendent, superintendent of horticulture, superintendent of botanical gardens, superintendent of maintenance and development, and curator of gardens. Many of these posts remain vacant and have been the subject of continuous acting appointments. In spite of our best efforts, little forward movement has occurred, and the department continues to function under much stress and frustration for the staff. Morale is at an all-time low, and I implore those in the civil service charged with this responsibility to act with a greater sense of urgency. Mr. Speaker, the Department of Parks has a significant number of vacant posts that are essential to the smooth operation of the department. At present, there are 45 industrial posts vacant in the maintenance and enhancement section, which equates to 27% of the total number of industrial posts in this section. The department administration section is currently housed in temporary accommodation in Global House. The department was relocated after the Parks Office was given notice of unsafe conditions by the Health and Safety Officer in late 2016. Management has been acting collaboratively with the Ministry Estates section on this issue as a priority, and a new location has been identified for the department. Plans are underway to progress the relocation of the department. Mr. Speaker, other infrastructure areas requiring attention and improvements include the Botanical Gardens exhibition house roofs, the greenhouses at Tulo Valley, the maintenance yard, the lifeguard towers, playgrounds, shower facilities at Horseshoe Beach, and the toilets in the parks. There are multiple challenges with the department's fleet and equipment. Presently, there are a number of vehicles that are out of service. Some will be repaired and some will be disposed of. An order was placed for additional vehicles. There is need for the implementation of a better system for ordering new vehicles and spare parts. Greater collaboration and possible amalgamation with the services at the quarry are being explored. Mr. Speaker, with numbers down in both manpower and vehicles, the department is challenged to perform the duties within its remit, including but not limited to the landscaping requirements of all national parks and other government-owned lands such as Government House in Camden, Eastern Parks, Western Parks, school grounds, Tulo Valley, Botanical Gardens, and the railway trail. Work performed involves hard landscaping, development renovations, maintenance, mowing, pruning, edging, trash removal, tree surgery, and sanitation services. The Botanical Gardens Maintenance Facility. Mr. Speaker, the plan to build this facility was the subject of a number of objections that culminated in a Supreme Court case prior to the change of government last year. A deadline of August 25, 2017 was set by the Supreme Court to decide on the way forward, and a decision was made before that date and communicated to the court that this government would abandon its plans to build on the site. As a result, the matter is now closed. Land Title Registration. Mr. Speaker, the mission of the Land Title Registry Office is to implement and maintain a stable and effective system of land title registration by securing legal ownership rights and interests in registered land, thereby providing confidence in property dealings by allowing electronic access to current information pertaining to land in Bermuda. Having said that, the Bermuda Land Title Registry Office was established as an autonomous section within the Ministry of Public Works for the purpose of conducting business arising under the provisions of a Land Title Registration Act and the Land Title Registrar Recording of Documents Act 2017, within the context of the proposed objective to develop and maintain an efficient system of land title registration. The primary purpose of the Land Title Registry Office is to establish and maintain a statutory register of rights and interests in land, together with a land title registry index map that will be defined within the Act. Mr. Speaker, in continuation, the operational functions of the Land Title Registry Office include the creation and maintenance of an electronic register of legal estates and interests in land, and so providing legal security for owners and other interested persons. the registration of mortgages and other secured loans, thereby providing security for lenders, the maintenance of a system of registered conveyancing that facilitates the creation, transfer, and cancellation of legal interests in land in a way that is reliable, simple, and timely. The provision of affordable access to land information in order to facilitate the land information needs of Bermuda. The maintenance of the Land Title Registry index map of all registered titles in order to enable the identification of unique title number references for each registered property and the location and the indicative extent of such properties. The establishment and maintenance of a schedule of fees to be paid by those registering transactions and for obtaining information and copies of documents and plans. The collaboration in the development of land information systems in Bermuda. The collaboration in other related government initiatives, example, sustainable development, e-government, etc., as appropriate. The provision of advice to the Minister on any matters relating to land and to prepare an annual report on the work of the Land Title Registration Office, and lastly, to set up a lands tribunal. Mr. Speaker, the main issue facing the Land Title Registry Office is staffing. At present, with 5 staff in post and 4 consultants on six-month work permits. With the opening of the registration to the public, staff are needed in place. Initially, the office was staffed to take applications in on triggers, which were on sale of grant of a mortgage and a grant of a lease over 21 years. All these applications had to come via an attorney who would know what was expected of them. Now that the office is taking applications from the public, a longer period of time is needed to assist them, which does slow the process of processing applications. Also, the current Land Title Registry staff have to carry out the relevant searches that the attorneys would have carried out had they processed the application. Mr. Speaker, with that said, we are starting now with planning for additional staff to replace the seconded staff and to encourage young Bermudians to explore this career option as part of long-term succession planning. It is envisaged that the office will receive 8 to 10 compulsory applications a day and 8 to 10 applications a day from the public, which will give on average a maximum of 20 applications a day. Thus, each land title officer will deal with 3 to 4 applications a day. Mr. Speaker, the senior land title officer will train and mentor the land title officers and the trainee. The senior officer will cover all inquiries not passed on to the land title legal officers. By introducing trainees and junior staff, a succession plan will be created for the department. Mr. Speaker, all of the current projects being carried out by the department are purely operational. However, the department will soon start phase 2 of scanning and registering of the remaining deeds held by the deeds registry. And now that the legislation allows for voluntary registration, the Land Title Registry Office will work with the banks to manage registering their existing deeds. Mr. Speaker, as you know, the office became operational for voluntary conveyance on July 1st. And while there has been a brief pause while awaiting the enactment of the 2018 amendments, I can report that there has been a steady stream of telephone, email, and walk-in inquiries to the office by a wide cross-section of Bermudians interested in registering their properties. As background, there are approximately 28,000 parcels of land in the country, a third of which, or approximately 9,000, are government-owned or public lands which have been entered on the register. Every time there has been a public announcement to highlight this new office, the registrar reports a spike in email inquiries and correspondence. Mr. Speaker, you will know that Bermuda lags behind much of the developed world in not having a land title registry, and we are extremely proud to finally bring it to fruition. There has been some reported comments from segments of both the legal and real estate fraternity querying certain aspects of the register. All of their concerns can and are being addressed, but the bottom line is that the establishment of this office is welcomed by the wider community, and the government is resolute that this is the proper course of action. Now, we also accept that there are going to be some unanticipated issues that will arise. We will face and address them head-on. The Bermuda Land Development Company. Mr. Speaker, the Bermuda Land Development Company Limited was incorporated under the authority of the Baselands Development Act 1996 on November 12, 1996. The shares of the company are held in trust by the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Public Works for the benefit of the country. The general purpose of the company is to manage and develop the former baselands, to integrate them into the social and economic fabric of Bermuda, and to increase employment opportunities for present and future generations of Bermudians. The BLD's four principal properties are Daniels Head, Tudor Hill, Morgan's Point, and Southside, which represent 5% of Bermuda's total landmass. Mr. Speaker, the broad objective of the BLDC extends beyond that of a typical real estate development company. In addition to being responsible for the commercial development and management of its properties, it is also responsible for projects that are essentially non-income producing. When the BLDC assumed responsibility for the former baselands, the majority of the facilities were structurally unsound, in a very poor state of repair, or just not suitable for commercial use. Mr. Speaker, the BLDC conducts many routine works in order to maintain the sites in which they are responsible for. These works can be categorized into two groups: infrastructure upgrades and building upgrades. I'd like to share with you the following 7 infrastructure upgrades that are currently underway. The upgrading of the reverse osmosis plant. 2, the upgrading of the freshwater mains, which included replacing cast iron pipes. 3, structural assessments and repair of the water catchment tank chamber walls of reservoirs 13 and 16. The upgrading of the saltwater mains and fire hydrants. The upgrading of the telecommunications ducts. Various improvements to street lighting. And number 7, the improvement and refreshment of street lines, signage, and markings. Mr. Speaker, I'd also like to share the following 10 building upgrades that are currently underway. The demolition and replacement of freshwater pump station building 418, the improvement of the Southside Police Station building 842 driveway, the replacement of the roof sectional membrane of the National Archives building 1564, the replacement of the roof sectional membrane of the Government Lab and BAA building 332, the upgrade of roof and windows at the Gymnastics building, building 347, the upgrade of restrooms at the Pizza House building 106, the upgrade of the Channel House building 349, the upgrade of the air conditioning system at the Glory Temple Church building 120, mold remediation of the Cinema building 105, and lastly, the demolition and asbestos abatement of the Lilyfield building 347. Mr. Speaker, the BRDC has also completed a number of achievements this year, which include the following: the launch of the ships, marginal wharf, development cargo port, and energy port RFQs, the completion of the 2011-2012 audit, the upgrade of the Clearwater Beach restrooms and additional concessionaire, the construction of the Turtle Bay parking lot, the conversion and renovation of the former police barracks building 633 into dorms for the Tuckers Point staff, the replacement of water catchment tank roof for reservoir number 13, asbestos containers 30 repackaging and exporting phase 1 completed, the improvement of Daniels Head for summer vendors and long-term marketing, the declaring of Tudor Hill expression of interest, with the next phase being an RFP, the commencement of street lighting improvements on Southside and Westcott Roads, the demolition of the former Azure Club building S11, and lastly, the asbestos abatement of the Open Door Christian Assembly Church building 631. The West End Development Corporation. Mr. Speaker, the corporation was established in 1982 by an act of Parliament with the specific task of developing the lands which were vested to the corporation under the Act. As a summary, the corporation's primary focus is to develop the vested lands in cooperation with the government of the day, hence the specific overall development plan can and does change periodically. Mr. Speaker, key deliverables identified by WEDCO are as follows: to continue to sustain and develop the current vested assets without annual government financial operating contributions, to ensure that the current good fiscal management continues and is reflected in the annual audited statements, to grow the corporate revenue base through new leases, opportunities, and revenue streams, to continue to upgrade the residential housing stock to today's standards in a cost-effective manner without displacing any sitting tenant. REDCO will deliver these units at a fair price to upgrade commercial properties at a rate the demand can sustain. Mr. Speaker, the new reverse osmosis plant is now online and has a capacity of approximately 500,000 gallons per day. While this is excellent for ensuring overall water availability, there is also the need to balance distribution and selling capacity. REDCO would like to formalize the supply of potable water as far as Watford Bridge, and should the Ministerial Work Section wish, the potential to supply even further. Those discussions are ongoing. Mr. Speaker, the REDCO solar project is a 2018 board initiative. This goal will be achieved via the completion of a 400 to 600 kilowatt system. The tender process is now complete. The expectation is to start and complete the entire project before the end of the current calendar year. The project is anticipated to be in the $1.5 to $2 million range. This project will reduce REDCO's Belco reliance and has a 6 to 7 year payback period. REDCO continues the program of upgrading its existing residential inventory. This ongoing commitment is being achieved by either upgrading units as tenants move out or working with tenants to move to another completed unit and then proceed to upgrade the vacated one. Mr. Speaker, REDCO has launched the first short-term rental property at the Prince Alfred Terrace condos, and thus far it has been welcomed and successful, especially now that Bermuda is in the high season. Mr. Speaker, during the month of August, REDCO will be piloting a pedestrian-only zone in front of the clock tower building, removing regular vehicular access. All through traffic will now be routed around the back of the building. REDCO will continue to review proposals for the development of several sites, including Maria Hill, the Victorian Yard, the Parsonage, Cross Island, and the Albert Road units. Long-term, economically viable business plans are being sought for the mostly vacant listed sites. The Bermuda Housing Corporation. Mr. Speaker, to remind the Bermuda Housing Corporation's mission statement is to provide accessibility to adequate, affordable housing and promote independent living to enhance the quality of life in Bermuda. The corporation has a very busy year launching new initiatives and programs under this current government to fulfill its mandate. The corporation completed the purchase of its present location, the former IAS building at 44 Church Street, Hamilton. A number of tenants continue to occupy space within the building and remain in place while the Estates Department works to transfer other government offices to effect a reduction in private sector rents. Mr. Speaker, the corporation has established a partnership to allow for the transformation of Grand Atlantic into the Bermuda Beach Condo Resort Condo Hotel. The corporation successfully launched the following jobs as part of the 101 Jobs for 101 People initiative, working with the Parks Department to clear Southlands Park and other areas requiring cleanup, working with Waste Management Department to reduce backlog of island-wide trash, power washing of the Grand Atlantic in preparation for exterior painting of the 9 blocks, dead brush clearance at Harmony Club perimeter due to 3 recent suspicious fires set along the railway trail, cleaning out the old Bishop Spencer School, cleaning out of the Allenhurst, the old police station building on Parliament Street, and remove foliage and debris from a seniors' home known as Easter Lily in Hamilton Parish. Project enhancements. Mr. Speaker, the Prospect Apartments is 42 units at Fort Prospect that primarily house seniors. A new policy has been implemented when a unit becomes available and is placed in the make-ready state. Specific renovations are being carried out to improve accessibility in the unit by enlarging the kitchen and hallways and installing roll-in showers for senior access. The corporation is currently assessing the feasibility of adding an elevator unit to this 3-story building for seniors' convenience. The Bermuda Police Service has vacated the Harmony Club property, and BHC has commenced a phased approach to convert the complex into affordable units for rent for independent living targeted mainly at seniors. Renovations will include the complete replacement of antiquated plumbing and electrical to bring them up to code. The ground floor units will be made accessible to physically challenged clients. In addition to the proposed renovations to Harmony Club, the Corporation is currently in the process of designing and modifying existing housing inventory, which will result in an increase in Bermuda's affordable housing stock by at least 55 additional units. Mr. Speaker, BHC has 27 buildings that were constructed using the non-traditional Pan-Bermuda building method. This process involved pouring concrete into plastic molds. This building method is severely flawed and has resulted in significant leaking and environmental issues. The Corporation must remediate all of these units by removing the plastic out of the concrete and replastering and rewiring each unit. BHC has put in place a team dedicated to this project, consisting of 1 maintenance employee and 4 hustle truck workers to complete it. Each unit takes 4 to 6 months to complete. So far, 9 of the 27 units have been completed. Mr. Speaker, the Corporation has created an internal team to help tackle the repairs to several properties that are in a vacant and derelict state in a cost-efficient manner. The team is headed by a staff property officer and 4 hustle truck workers, which will provide the workers with job training opportunities. Properties currently assigned to this team include units at 7 on Ginny's Lane, St. David's. Those major works are completed. 9 on Ginny's Lane, St. David's. Those works are completed. 13 on Ginny's Lane, St. David's. That work is in process, expected to be completed in September this year. 3 Rock Irvin Lane, St. David's, in process, also September completion. 116 North Shore Road, Hamilton Parish, completed. 5 Ocean Drive in Warwick, expected completion March 2019. And Ripon Cottage, Victoria Road, St. George's, expected completion July 2019. Mr. Speaker, due to significant cracking and leaking issues at the Gulfstream Rooming House, the entire building was in need of replastering. In addition to replastering of the building, control joints were added to the building to help minimize any future cracks, which are being caused by vibrations from flights arriving and departing at the LF-Wade International Airport. The project is completed on time and on budget. In June, the vacant police barracks building located at 21 Barracks Close, St. George's, was handed over to the Corporation for rehabilitation and repurposing. An initial assessment reveals overall the infrastructure appears to be in satisfactory condition. The existing layout lends itself to a potential housing complex for single persons. A full assessment is being carried out to confirm that minimal alteration work is required to ready the building for occupancy. Mr. Speaker, renovation of 5 of the 18 units at Victoria Terrace on Princess Street have been completed, with the remaining 3 to follow. The Corporation is also in the process of conducting extensive renovations to the damaged Chelsea 4-apartment complex in St. George's, with an aim to increase the number of units in the building. This work includes roof replacement and new electrical and plumbing throughout the units. Home ownership. The Home Star program is a partnership with Clarion Bank and the corporation that provides clients with 100% financing to purchase certain properties either owned by BHC or Clarion Bank, with BHC providing a guarantee for the down payment. BHC has completed the sale on the first 5 houses under this program, with 3 additional units presently under contract and about to close. 8 potential new homeowners are pending, dependent on final financing approval. Mr. Speaker, separately, the sale of 3 2-bedroom vacant units at Harborview Village to rent geared to income clients is also advancing. This year, 2 other BHC clients have successfully graduated from the rent geared to income program and purchased their own homes in the open market. And finally, Mr. Speaker, the Department of Energy has partnered with the BHC to provide an energy rebate program for seniors and low-income families, a forward-thinking idea to help reduce the cost of energy bills. BHC units will be the pilot for this service, where LED bulbs and hot water heater timers will be installed in identified homes at no cost to them, to reduce energy bills and help reduce our carbon footprint. Golf courses. Mr. Speaker, golf courses ably led by MP Neville Tyrrell are presently conducting an in-depth analysis of golf course operations, so I shall report to this House at the conclusion of that review. Mr. Speaker, the ministry currently has 45 summer students, and with your further indulgence, I'd like to read the names of all 45 of them.
Yeah, I wish you wouldn't.
Might as well go for it.
I wish you wouldn't.
You wish I wouldn't?
I really wish you
You
wouldn't.
really wish I
I
wouldn't?
really wish you wouldn't.
Okay, I wouldn't, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
But what I will say is that, Mr. Speaker, I didn't name these 45 students, but I hope that the media will actually publish them, because I want this House and the people of this country to know their names, and that the vast majority of young people are doing amazing things. But more importantly, Mr. Speaker, I want them to know they are special. We are proud of them. We will support them not just in our words, but in our actions, and that we are unwavering in our support of them and commitment to them. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to publicly thank the awesome people who work in this ministry, who I have had the honor to serve with. You need no better testament to their work than the mere snapshot I have just delivered of their activities over this last year. I especially want to thank the leadership of the 9 areas of the ministry, starting with the former Permanent Secretary, Mr. Francis Richardson, the Chief Surveyor, Mr. Chris Farrow, the Chief Engineer, Mr. Yves Bob Lawty, the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Gideon Kagotho, the Land Registrar, Mrs. Debbie Reed, the Director of Land Valuation, Mrs. Diane Elliott, the Acting Directors of Parks, in the time that I've been here, Ms. Terry Lynn Thompson and Mr. Stephen Tucker, the CEO of the BLDC, Mr. Francis Mossanen, the GM of Redco, Mr. Andrew Diaz, and the GM of BHC, Major Barrett Deal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.